Howdy, howdy, and welcome back to Gale FFTCG. I am Serah, your host, and today we're looking at Ice Rarity Review. And oh my gosh, I have been an Ice enjoyer forever. It was the first kind of competitive deck. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know that's the deck I kind of started getting really into this game, getting really serious about this game. It was Mono Ice. It's my baby, and it hasn't been seeing a lot of love over the last couple of sets. And I think all of that is about to change. I just think that Ice got so many good things this set that really make it be able to run toe-to-toe with some of the faster decks and really stop them from doing their thing. So, yeah, without further ado, let's jump straight in. At common, I think this is probably the only Theater Rhythm card that will actually see any play in the meta at all. It might not even see play there, but it does have a chance. 3 CP 5k EX Burst, it's Terra. And when Terra enters the field, you choose one summon, any element in your break zone, and you add it into your hand. I think this is insane in Mono Ice builds. I think this is insane in Ice Earth builds. This might even see a little bit of play in Axstar builds because you can cheat it in off of Axstar, so Ice Fire. 3 drops, you might even see this one, interestingly, in 7 Wall to get back Amaterasu's. I don't know, I'm just spitballing, but this seems in the perfect sweet spot to be a very good common, potentially even meta warping. But we'll see. In our rare slots, I've been doing these double pairings for the priming cards, and I think this pair is probably some of the better ones. So, Jill, 3 CP 7k, not that much to write home about. Shiva is a 7 CP 9k. Again, not much to write home about in terms of their stat lines, but for Jill, if you control a card named Clive or a card named Torgal, the cost required to cast Jill is reduced by 2. So that's 1 CP potentially in the right kind of deck. Priming Shiva 16. You can pay an Ice and 2 to play Shiva out. If you have the reduction, that's basically 4 CP to cheat in Shiva, and that's really good. When Jill enters the field, you choose one forward opponent controls and dull and freeze it. Just a decent tempo swing, especially if you're running the Torgal or the Clive. I haven't mentioned it here, but basically Torgal is a 2 CP Ice backup. So you could get Jill out really early and start just going crazy with your tempo. But if you're priming, that's really where Jill shines. Because as soon as Shiva enters the field, or when Jill primes into Shiva, you choose 2 dull forwards and you break them, which is just insane. At the end of each of your turns, if 2 or more forwards opponent controls were put from the field into the break zone during this turn, your opponent discards a card. So not only is this breaking things, it's a piece of removal, it also is a discard outlet, so it pushes more advantage. I think this card will be particularly good into aggro decks, as paying 6 to basically just kill off 2 things real quick and force your opponent to discard seems pretty balanced, especially if you can prime into Jill. Even at paying 7, the Shiva seems pretty decent. So, yeah, I really like these pair. In our hero slot is an interesting card, more than a card whether I can say it's like definitely going to be really super viable or whatever. But 4 CP, Zalera the Death Seraph. The art is really cool here. It makes me think, you know, like Day of the Dead type stuff. And I kind of like that. I'm a big fan of that. So you can only cast Zalera the Death Seraph during your turn. You can select one of the 2 following. Your opponent selects one forward of cost 5 or more they control, put it in the break zone, and your opponent discards a card, or your opponent selects one forward of cost 4 or less they control, and put it into the break zone, and your opponent discards a card. This is really cool for getting around cards that have built-in protection effects, so cards like Belgiumine, cards like the 7 Wall list that was running around. It's just a particularly interesting card. I'm not sure how viable it is, but it's definitely one to keep an eye out, especially with that new Terra that we just discussed. Being able to recur this over and over seems like it could be pretty potentially powerful. And last but not least, in our legend slot, a legend I did not expect. I think when it comes to Ice Legends, you'll learn to get disappointed real quick. I think this card is just nuts. 7 CP, 10k, it's Benevelza, a Category 13 and a Mobius card, which might be relevant for you Mobius enjoyers out there. When Benevelza enters the field, you may put any number of forwards and or monsters you control in the break zone. When you do so, your opponent selects one forward they control for each character you put in the break zone. And then, basically, your opponent basically sacks all theirs, equal to the number that you did, and then for each character that you put into the break zone, they discard cards. Sorry, I got lost in all the text. Seems to be a lot of long lines of text in these cards. But this is just insane, especially because it just puts so much control. This is really cool with the 1 CP flan that when it gets put in the break zone, you can go and search for another flan. I think that's really particularly interesting. Your opponent discarding 3 while you draw 3 seems pretty good to me. Don't know about you, but I think this just has so much potential to be such a good boss card. And for that reason, it is the legend I have picked. Well, let me know in the comments down below. You know the drill. What are you interested in? What are you excited for? I want to see it. I want to hear about it. I want to see your deck theories. I want to see what you think will be good. Yeah. Until the next video, have a great day and a great rest of your week.